Welcome to the Friday FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions about College Financial Aid and College Admissions. Pearl Lockwood, Andy Lockwood here, and welcome. Hello to you.
Hello to you.
Pearl just got her hair blown out, especially for the show, so I hope you appreciate that, because I do. You look lovely.
Thank you.
To make yourself comfortable.
I am.
Okay, good. So, it's been a rough week here at Lockwood College Consulting because there were a slew of filings that had to happen by November 1st. Filings in terms of financial aid, the FAFSA, and free application for federal student aid.
Not anything else.
I nailed that one.
Yep.
And the CSS profile for many schools, and there's also November 1 early decision deadlines, early application deadlines. And we have accumulated, like we always do, a whole slew of questions about, the college process that we got over the week. And in fact, I did a presentation last night that I tried to talk Pearl into attending.
I was a no-go. Still recouping from the November 1 late night.
Whatever. So I did a presentation last night in the library in Dix Hills, Long Island, the Half Hollow Hills Library, which is very nice, by the way, nice crowd. And Margie, I don't think you've ever met her, who handles the programs there, she said something that I told her I was shamelessly going to steal, which was that when she was introducing me, she said, so hopefully you're not going to start too late because too many parents, instead of having an aha moment, have an uh-oh moment after they're blindsided when they realize what they should have done if they knew then what they now know. So I look at our show as trying to help avoid the uh-oh moments and try to help produce the aha moments.
I like that.
Thanks, Marge. So, who's definitely not watching, but thanks. So, if you are just joining us, please say hi in the comments section. Please share. Please like. We like to be liked.
Let us know your questions. Let us know your thoughts.
Definitely. So here are some of the questions that I want to get to today. So last night we got questions about the 529. We got questions about the new college timeline, college financial aid timeline. We got questions about divorce. Not whether we should be divorced, but whether what's the financial aid implication of being divorced. And I also got one of my favorite classics. Does applying for need-based aid hurt your chances of getting into college?
I was making like a lightning streak. I was trying to be like Almighty Isis.
That's like this.
Yeah.
I think Shazam was the lightning bolt, if you really want to be technical.
Who aired, technically speaking, 1 hour before Almighty Isis.
Were they hour shows or were they half-hour shows?
I remember it being an hour.
Yeah, I think it was a half hour because I got an hour of TV.
Right, and you wouldn't. Maybe you just didn't earmark your whole hour for Shazam.
I think I just cut it in the middle. Do you want to talk about college stuff or Shazam?
Either.
Okay. So anyway, if you have any college-related questions or you want to resolve this debate whether Shazam and ISIS were each a half hour or an hour, I can't imagine they'd be a half hour, but I did have restricted TV.
So much happened. You can't imagine it all wrapping up in a half hour.
Right, in a nice little package.
For us.
Yeah, well, definitely not us.
Right.
So anyway, and you've been getting a lot of questions as you've been filing in terms of, receipts, weird emails about FAFSA, corrections, IDOCs, all this type of stuff. So
why aren't all my schools on the CSS?
Okay, so why don't you start off with one or two of your questions that you've been getting. I'll try to be you and answer them.
Ooh, okay.
And then you can chime in.
Okay, so I'll be like the clients?
Yeah.
In my emails? All right. Is something wrong? Do you need to look into this? Because there's a correction to my FAFSA. What's wrong?
Yeah, you're screwed. Next.
Okay. You want to elaborate?
Yeah, I guess so. So, anytime a FAFSA, free application... by the way, there was someone last night who was a little embarrassed about trying to say FAFSA. She couldn't say it correctly. So, being the sensitive guy that I am, guess what I did the rest of the presentation?
Called it the wrong thing every single time, or made her say it, or pointed to her and made her say it every single time?
I tried to.
Did she nail it by the end?
She wouldn't take my bait.
Even when she should have made a sign.
Even when I pointed out how other people were able to say it easily.
A lot of people have trouble with that one.
I know, I told her that too. Anyway, okay. So, all these corrections quote-unquote correction emails that are coming, they are 99% of them you can just blow them off, because anytime that you for example, send your FAFSA to a new batch of schools, the FAFSA allows you to send that form out to only 10 schools at a time. So if you were to send out all 10, which is really dumb, that's just one of the many dumb things.
And by the way, it's not even readily apparent. No, because what happens is when you try to add that 11th school, people just get frustrated. Like, why isn't it showing up? Why isn't it showing up? And it drives you crazy until you learn that, in fact, you can only do 10 at a time. And there's not any kind of like, you've reached your 10.
Right.
It just frustrates you for a little while until you somehow learn that it only takes 10. And
I promise you, out of all the dumb regulations, there will never be a regulation that limits the number of colleges that you can apply to, mainly because colleges get the application fees. In fact, Harvard made $2 million in application fees a couple of years ago. They probably make about the same every year. So it's not, that part's not going away. Who else is here? Robin was here. Hello, Robin Matza. And okay, so anytime that you were to change out the first 10 for the next set of colleges that you're applying to, that would trigger a correction from the FAFSA. That is really not a correction.
It isn't. They always call it a correction, but it's any change you make from the initial FAFSA submission. But I wanted to reassure, because this is something else that came up, there were concerns, I guess, from people that if you take away the schools and then add in the additional past 10, what happens? You know, people are nervous that, well, how do I know if it was processed, that the first 10? So what I'll share is, when you log in, it gives you an option to view your correction history. You should view your correction history, and then with that you can see every submission that you've made, and along with those dates is a separate SAR, or student aid report, that you can retrieve as a PDF as a record or a receipt of that filing, and that'll include the data that you've put in, as well as the date you filed it, the time and date that you filed it, along with the list of schools that you filed in that submission.
The SAR.
The SAR.
Yes.
Yes.
Pearl is the czar of the SAR, as I like to say. Okay, let me ask you this. What happens if, because there were all these November 1 deadlines, what happens if you miss one, a priority financial aid deadline? And by the way, how easy is it to figure out your financial aid deadlines, Pearl?
Very challenging at some schools. The best place, or really the only place you should look for when your school's priority financial aid deadline is, as compared to your admissions deadline, okay? They could be the same, but they often are distinct from one another.
2 deads, 2 lines.
Correct.
Multiple deadlines.
Right.
Dead's line.
Correct. Okay, so a big distinction between application deadlines and financial aid deadlines. Application deadline, if you're a day late, you are out. They will refuse your application if you are past their expressed deadline. Oh, and I'll back up a sec. The place you should look for priority financial aid deadlines and admissions deadlines is on the school's website. Do not rely on what it says in the FAFSA. Do not rely on what it says even in the College Board for the CSS profile. Sometimes those dates pull in last year's dates, pull in no dates, inaccurate dates. The school's website is where you should confirm your deadlines. Anyhow, so financial aid deadlines, so admissions deadlines, those are hard, firm, and distinct and definite. If you are late with a priority financial aid deadline, it is not rejected. You're just taking a risk with your lateness of 2 things. 1, the school running out of money before it's able to give you an award. And 2, it is something that eventually, if that is the school that you ultimately go to, if they give you a lesser award than maybe you would have otherwise received or be entitled to, they could hang their hat on, well, you were late. You know, they can do that, and we've seen them do that. It's not nice.
You've seen it.
We have.
You've seen many things.
And we've also seen them other schools that have less firm, but they have a deadline because everyone has a deadline. They're less strict with it, and as long as they have the money and this is what you're entitled to, you'll get it.
So your best bet is to not rely on any data about deadlines from anywhere else, including the College Board, including your guidance counselor, including the FAFSA itself, which tells you the deadline is July 1st.
Right.
You need to look at each college's respective individual websites for your deadlines. Otherwise, you could be shooting yourself in the foot.
Unnecessarily. And along with that, there is no negative.
Did you say unnecessarily? Like, why would you necessarily shoot yourself in the foot?
Because your undue delay likely is not necessary.
If I'm saying shoot yourself in the foot, it's
Okay.
implied it's not necessary to do that.
All right, whatever. So,
Go ahead, talk.
all right.
Want to switch to iDocs?
Sure.
Okay. So what kind of questions are you getting about iDocs?
What is this? What's iDoc?
Gotta move a little closer. That's nice.
What is this?
Not too close.
Oh.
Okay.
Don't make me grope you. Okay.
Could you blame her?
iDoc is merely a transportation system.
Wait, I thought you were going to ask, and I was.
Oh.
You're the question.
Oh, Andy.
You're the questioner, Pearl.
What's iDoc? Do you
Okay.
do this?
So this
Do I do
question
this?
comes because there's all of these notifications for people who filed the CSS profile, which is a much more complicated.
Some, not all.
It's a much more complicated financial aid form. FAFSA is about 108 questions. The profile is like 200 something questions. Mostly the small liberal arts elite colleges, with a few exceptions, require the CSS profile. And many of those schools, I guess some, not all,
Some, not all.
will request your tax returns by saying, instead of mailing us your tax return, put it into iDoc, which is a College Board service that lets you send one set of returns, which then gets disseminated to all colleges that use this iDoc service.
Exactly.
So it's not that anything was wrong, it's not that you're being selected, you're being red flagged, it's just that they want to verify that everything that's put down on the CSS profile is actually accurate, and you're not just making it up out of left field.
Right, and what they look for are the following. They are going to want your 2015 tax return for the student, if he or she filed one, and the parents. If W-2s that were received by the student and the parents, 1099s that were received by the student and the parents. If the student did not file a tax return, or the parent, there is a non-filer's tax statement that needs to be generated and signed. And sometimes somebody will have income but not file a tax return, so that is also where you would indicate, I earned this from this source, and you file that form too. There are two ways. And then if you own a business, then you will also be asked through iDocs to submit what's called a business supplement, or a business/farm supplement, which is something that we recommend you have your accountant help you out with.
Your farming accountant.
Your farming accountant or your business accountant.
Your farming specialist.
Yeah. So with all of these various documents, you have the option of either printing them out in hard copy and mailing it to the iDoc address that is on your sheet that comes in your email, and you must print a cover sheet, the iDoc cover sheet, which goes along with that packet, or you have a link through your iDoc email that you will have received that you can upload all of these documents through your computer to iDoc, and then that will have satisfied that requirement.
So that sounded like a lot of explanation for something that's relatively simple.
But a lot of it daunts people. So I always err on the side of over-explanation because I don't want any of my friends out there to feel confused.
Thank you, Pearl. Okay, you mentioned something that I found intriguing, which was the slight exaggeration, which was the mention of the non-filer letter. What is that?
It means if you did not or not required to file a tax return for any income that you may have received in the base year, and this year it's 2015,
for 2017 graduates.
For 2017 graduates and anyone currently enrolled in college who is seeking aid for next year, the school year that begins August or September 2017 through 2018. A non-tax filer statement is you has your name, it has your social. You would indicate either no income and no W-2 and no nothing, or you would indicate I'm not required to file. There's a check mark for that, and then you would say maybe let's say you earned $800 as a summer counselor, a camp counselor. You would indicate the name of the camp and the amount that you earned, and that's it.
Now,
and
if
you sign it
you're
and date it.
if you're a parent who's submitting one of these things, does it have to be certified by an accountant or something?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Possibly.
So
There may be, yeah, I do believe there is a
it's got, I would
further
imagine,
requirement
yeah.
for parent. I mean, I think most
Otherwise,
students,
everyone would be a non-filer and
of
try to
course,
get away with it, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully not everybody, but
I would.
no, you wouldn't. You're better than that.
Okay. Well, technically, I don't file. I mean, our accountant files for us.
Oh gosh, we're splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so just that was just a question. All right, what about the talk about the timeline, because there's still a lot of questions. I had a lot of class of 2018 kids in the library last night, and they were wondering. Actually, even Marge from the library Marge, as opposed to another guy I met 2 days ago was Lenny. Lenny's the brace guy.
Yes.
Because our son. Our football playing son dislocated his shoulder, and I was at the doctor's with him, the orthopedist, I guess on Thursday, and he said that our son Jack was going to have to wear a brace. So he goes, so I'm referring you to Lenny. He's our brace guy, and I just think that's so
Such
funny.
a New York conversation.
I know. So I was like, oh, Lenny, the brace guy. That sounds legit. I mean, is his truck outside? You know. So anyway, there was I probably no exaggeration. Probably made another 25 to 50 Lenny the brace guy references that afternoon, all the way through. I guess now. Mm-hmm. So we have to go down to Lenny's shop, Lenny the brace guy's shop, down the South Shore of Long Island. Which had a lot of nice orthotics. Do you know what he is?
I thought you were going to get me a neck brace.
I was teasing you.
I was excited.
Lenny the brace guy is really in the profession of what? What is that profession called if you specialize in those devices?
Orthotics?
Close. I mean, it's related to it. If you sell orthotics, you are a what?
Prosthetic seller?
No.
No, it's not.
He got
it's not prosthetic.
Yeah, he got a shoulder brace.
Brace doctor?
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
He's an orthotist.
Oh.
I learned that word. That's a real word.
Tist of the authors.
Orthotist, Pearl.
Oh, okay, cool.
You don't have to make fun of Lenny.
No, I'm not.
Lenny takes his job very seriously.
But when you said New York, I might have said New York. But it did remind me of one other thing that has come up, even though I know that we do not have only New York listeners. But I did want to share that.
Oh, you're talking about back to college.
I am
stuff?
I'm
okay,
going
fine.
to segue us back to college.
Enough about Lenny.
With the filing, certainly in New York State and many states, when you submit your FAFSA, that would then trigger, based on what state you live, the similar and based on the FAFSA, typically state department that is in charge of giving out state financial aid awards. It is triggered by just the filing of the FAFSA. So we've had certainly many of our New Yorkers question me about, what is this TAP application? Is this something we should apply for? What's the story with TAP? And basically TAP is and similar to other state awards, is a state-based grant, money that you don't have to pay back. It is not a lot.
The tuition assistance program, TAP.
Correct. It is not...
As opposed to the SAR, Student Aid Report, or
Correct.
the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, FAFSA.
Nice.
Just doing a little acronym review.
Right.
So if you get this thing, you fill the TAP, and then...
Right.
You might
It's
get a
not
few dollars.
basically as a mirror image of your FAFSA, except it's really and strictly based on your New York State return or your state tax return if you file one in your state.
And most states have an equivalent of the TAP.
Right, and it's not exactly the same numbers as the federal, so I would be careful because you could unintentionally penalize yourself for your state award. So make sure you use your state return in completing your state application. Anyway, but I did want to just point out a few things. One, on at least New York states, you have to actually specify which school you have selected and you want to have TAP consideration for.
Is the
So
TAP
at this
only
point,
for
it is-
public schools?
It is not. It is for any New York State resident who ends up attending a college or university within New York State. It is not. It does not apply to graduate students. It is only for undergrads.
So whatever state you're in, you may want to verify that your state also has the equivalent of the New York Tuition Assistance Program.
Exactly. So, for our clients, this
Public
is
or
not
private
something that we complete now. There's no advantage to completing it now.
Well, the deadline's like June, right?
Yes. Most people do not know whether, I don't think anybody really knows where they're going to school at this point. So you need to actually specify which school, and if you specify the wrong school, you're just going to have to redo this application anyway. So don't do it twice. Just wait till you know where you're going, because if you're going to University of Pennsylvania, the TAP application does not apply because that school is not located within New York State. So you're ineligible. So we wait till like May-ish.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And back to Lenny. So Lenny, the orthotist, the brace guy, has done brace work for many.
You say that so effortlessly.
Orthotist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you've said it for
You've
years.
never heard it?
No.
Yeah.
Never.
So I noticed that he had done some brace work for Bobby Nystrom, the hockey great,
Yeah, I know
as
that.
well as Carl Yastrzemski. Yaz, Red Sox great, but a Long Island boy. And I said, "Oh, you worked with Yaz?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm not really supposed to talk about it to give away his personal information." I'm like, the guy's like 75 years old. I don't know how much he really cares about his knee injury or whatever he had.
Do you
But
think Lenny's been saying that line for about 25 years now?
I don't like to criticize Lenny.
No, I'm not. I'm just, this is a matter of fact.
We're close, yeah. But
Just
Lenny,
asking.
I think he takes his client confidentiality very seriously, as an orthotist should.
Yes.
It's the orthotist
As any
patient,
orthotist
the
should.
orthotist patient confidentiality.
Right.
Just the same way we have a financial aid and college planning confidentiality bond with each of our clients.
Yes.
Yes. So it doesn't extend only to orthotists. If you're just joining us, please like, comment, and share all the stupid stuff that's coming out of my mouth and anything valuable that's coming out of Pearl's mouth in terms
And the
of
stupid stuff.
college planning stuff, FAFSA, CSS profile, deadlines, TAP,
Election.
SAR, election. Yeah, so so in my presentation last night, I was telling people how they could hide their money so effectively that not even James Comey could find it, and the reaction I got was sort of like,
I'm afraid to laugh.
yeah. Let's talk about a nice testimonial we got from Julie.
Yeah, that was nice.
So let me set the scene up, I guess. So, and I don't think we've gotten permission yet to
So
talk
why don't you
about
talk
this.
about it next week?
The gist of it was that her college-bound teen was very initially kind of reluctant to embrace doing the types of things that could help him or her get into a great college. Not only because it's not just about your grades and your scores, it's also about the other extracurricular stuff that that they do. It's like 60% grades and scores and 40% all the other stuff. So we spent. It was probably longer than this. It was 3 months, but we probably spent. It probably felt like about 3 years trying to tease out what this type of extracurricular thing could be that would help. Because my philosophy is you don't just come up with something random and hope it looks good for college. You do something that pluses or accentuates something you're already interested in. And in her case, her son was very sort of, I guess, introverted, a sciencey type of kid. So a lot of our conversations were sort of along the lines of, so have you thought about what we talked about a couple of weeks ago in terms of starting this type of project? And the response I got would be like,
Aww. Okay.
okay, sorry. Especially including the lack of eye contact. I'm just saying. So that was like a very long time, and Mom was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated, but we knew there was something there. So ultimately, to make a long story short, he hit on something that was really cool, which was to teach younger kids about his particular science that he was interested in. And that really lit his fire, and it ultimately turned into not only something great, but also some publicity in print media and television and other stuff. And it was a big win, and all that stuff got sent out to the top choice college that he's applying to, and the testimonial sort of that we'll hopefully be able to reprint at some point was just this never would have happened without you. Thank you so much, and we love getting stuff like that. But again, it's not that we can help kids get into college; they have to get themselves in. But if they take our advice and they're coachable and they implement what we're saying, they will get themselves in. So yes, of course we play a role, but it's really the kids who get themselves in. So so I thought that wasn't really a frequently asked question. That was a nice little testimonial. Yeah. So all right, we've got time for one more question here. Do you want to talk about? I'll let you choose, Pearl.
Yeah.
The new timeline, the divorce situation. How much does divorce impact your financial aid, and/or does applying for financial aid hurt your chances of admission? If you are just joining us, please like, comment, and share this post. If you have any questions that you want us to get to, that you either if you're seeing this on replay and we didn't answer during this week's show, please post them also. So what do you want to talk about? The timeline, divorce, or does applying for aid hurt your chances of getting in? Pearl Lockwood, go.
Well, I think I'll talk about the timeline because it's kind of ripe for right now.
Ripe. Good timeline word.
Thanks. Okay, so basically, if you've had children that have applied for financial aid in years before this one, then the conversation would look like this. So, 'cause basically, my build-up here is the financial aid forms have now become available much earlier, and the information they are basing it on is different than years past.
You know who did not know that?
No.
Marge.
Really?
Yeah, Marge from the library. She didn't know that.
Wow.
She has 4 kids the way we do. And her last one was already getting out. She said, yeah, so maybe people aren't going to come tonight because it's not right to talk about it. It's not till January. I said, ho, 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 ho.
Tell your
Marge.
friends. Yeah.
Marge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, by the way,
yeah.
You know who did know?
Who?
Lenny.
He did?
No, go ahead.
Oh, that's funny. I was going to say, that's
he would
circular.
Have. If I asked him, he would have. He's not just an orthotist, bro.
Of course.
All right. So anyway, so
He's
the timeline. So in the old world, the FAFSA came out in January, and so if you had someone graduating, I'm going to give you wrong information, then she's going to give you right information. Right. The wrong information,
or the way it was.
Rolling it back. The way it was, I guess, last year. If you had a kid who graduated in 2016, then the FAFSA came out in January of 2016, this year, and you were asked about income from 2015, 1 year back. Now,
the year that had just ended, right.
We're in the middle of, frankly, the year the tax year that ends in the middle of senior year.
Correct.
So now, what?
So now, it is more logical, but it is more remote. It is to some extent. It is and it isn't. What?
Is it more logical?
It's more controllable and less all over the place, but there is nonetheless going to be a disconnect between. I understand what they're doing. They want to use definite information when coming out of the gate with a financial aid award.
So let's give us a timeline, and then we can talk about the philosophies.
So now,
and I'll throw in a mention of Lenny again.
Okay. So now, for students who are graduating high school in 2017,
rising seniors,
right, are seniors, rising freshmen,
rising seniors, seniors,
sorry, rising
seniors.
College
Let's
students.
call them seniors. Class 2017.
Okay. The FAFSA, as well as the CSS profile, but now the FAFSA has emerged 3 months earlier. In October 1st, the FAFSA and the CSS profile became available. So what that meant, and the base year that you're going to report in the FAFSA is the prior year or 2015, an already submitted, filed, in most cases, tax return. Yes?
Just to be clear.
Yes.
So if you graduate 2017 and you have 2015 income information being provided,
Yes.
what about all the other information on the FAFSA? That was a bone of contention last night
Okay.
at Half Hollow Hills after Marge left.
Oh boy. Okay.
She couldn't handle this.
So while we use the 2015 income information, your asset information need be true as of the day you file the FAFSA.
So it could be November 2016 savings information
Right.
combined with 2015
Correct.
income information.
That's correct. So what's essentially going to happen in practice is the Department of Ed is taking the policy of
Who's this
for
Ed?
the
Lenny's
most part,
friends?
for the most part, your income, if you're in the same job and for this amount of years, is basically, but maybe incrementally increased, but since then, but is basically the same if you have the same position. Of course, we all know that in reality, we have plenty of clients, unfortunately, and fortunately, as the case may be, whose financial picture in 2015 and what's represented on that tax return is completely different than their reality at the end of 2016.
So let me hold you up right there. Just want to do a quick few shout outs,
Okay.
and then we want to wrap up with that.
Okay.
So Kerry Ingersoll, hello. Larry Cohen, Robin Matza, and a couple of shout outs to my high school friends, Scott Lancelotti and Ada Brill.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi.
I don't know if she still goes by Ada. It's Israel Ada. But I think that was always her name anyway. So, okay, so getting back to what you said, and this is why I was trying to insert myself into this discussion, other than just for my own entertainment. But in terms of whether it's fair or not, yeah. So let's say that you have a pretty high income in 2015, and that's the income information that's going to the FAFSA. But midway through this year, 16, let's say in September, you got laid off.
Right.
So that won't be reflected anywhere
No.
on the FAFSA.
It will not be
Right.
reflected anywhere. So in that case,
But
I know where you're going.
no, you don't. Where am I going? Right there.
You're going to the CSS profile, aren't you? Huh? And the opportunities to
I'm so angry. No,
present that
no,
information on the.
maybe.
Okay, so very quickly I'll say, but the other form that many schools, but not all, require, so those are schools that would require the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and therefore will have both sets of information in front of it. The CSS profile does comport with the FAFSA in using that prior income year as the base year, which is 2015, for its main questions and focus. But it does ask a few questions about what the expected 2016 and then the expected 2017 income will be. So that
So
is
that's
a
where it gets picked
numeric
up.
place that you can indicate. Like I have a client who worked as a full-time teacher in 2015, so she has a full year's worth of salary. And then in 2016, she was terminated at the very end of 2015. So she had only like substitute, sparse, much lower income in 2016, and still, well, it is still 2016, but
Well, she hasn't gotten
has
picked up
not
full-time.
gotten picked up full time. So, you know, there was like a $40,000-$50,000 swing in her income. And unfortunately, like the only place, but we had a place at least because her daughter goes to a CSS profile and FAFSA school.
Is this Syracuse?
Yes.
So this actually was a good story because last year,
Yes.
which Pearl's explaining something that leads up to another thing to talk about, which we don't have time for today, but that's how to negotiate an appeal.
Yes.
And she made it out pretty well because of these arguments.
She did,
Yeah.
and now she's so happy that, you know, what her new EFC is even
Right.
good, and then trending in a way that will help her.
Okay.
But we also had the opportunity to provide an explanation as well, because the CSS profile. So if, let's say, the number that you indicated, because it does not go into a formula, but if it doesn't get picked up necessarily or focused on by an admissions, or rather a financial aid officer, you have an opportunity on the schools that require the CSS profile to provide a written explanation to explain some of your numbers or something that does not necessarily leap off the page with the numbers alone. So in her case, we wrote an explanation just explaining, one, that she was terminated at the end of 2015. So yes, an entire year's worth of income as a regular teacher was represented. But no, that hasn't been the case, nor is it the case on the horizon. And to show that actual...
I think the words were something to the effect of, although she's actively looking for work, there's nothing solid at all in place. There's no offers, and there's no guarantee that she can make again what she once made.
And what
so
they are
the argument that
relying on.
Yeah, the argument that I kind of use as an umbrella term to describe that is things aren't as rosy as they seem.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And then we just had explained a couple other things and where her family's, and that they were selling a house and whatever. Anything that provides support to your change in financial circumstances should be included.
Right. So in effect, there's formulaic stuff, which is what we spent most of this last segment talking about. And then, if there's a different story behind the numbers, there's an opportunity either to, if you're applying to a CSS profile school, there's an opportunity to throw in a little narrative about it to describe that. If you're not applying to a CSS profile school, you should still write a separate letter after you get your award to the financial aid office and appeal it.
And that is where I was going to round out the discussion. That's right. While you do not have the opportunity on a FAFSA-only school to provide an explanation, that's exactly how you would handle the change. You don't have to go absolutely off a building because you can't provide your 2016. Somebody else said, well, is it an option? Because my 2016 is so much worse than 15 rather. And I'm like, well, no, it's not an option, but this is how you handle it. You handle it by writing a letter after you've submitted and been given an award that you then need to qualify.
So what's interesting to me is that at the Department of Ed, Ted Mitchell,
Ted from Ed,
Department of Ted, did say something to the in a letter, words to the effect of 2016 information is not going to be officially considered a special circumstance. I really don't believe that that's going to hold true, but we don't know at this point. And
the
this stuff
reality
always
is
changes.
There are human beings on the other end of this process who are ultimately making a decision for you.
Yes.
Hopefully.
We think there are human beings in the financial aid office.
Of course.
And running for office.
I was going to say.
That's
so
okay,
timely.
So we're going to wrap up here. Thanks a lot for joining us. If you have any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, please post them in the comments, and we will get to them post-haste. And we will be back on the air on Election Day, College Talk Tuesday, assuming the world doesn't end. We will be, and you can tear yourselves away from Fox News and CNN and whatever else you're watching.
Something else.
Maybe you do, because she's glued to the TV all day. We're not really doing the show for you. It's really for me to get her away from her work and her TV viewing.
That's true.
Yeah, and out of sweats.
Also
Doesn't she look nice?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Pearl Andy Lockwood, this was the Friday FAQ on College Success for Less. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you on the air 12 Eastern Tuesday for College Talk Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.